Hi guys, and welcome to the Northern Light RC channel. Now, I've been neglecting this Traxxas Slash 4x4 basher for a little while because I've been so focused on racing. So it's about time that I give this one a little bit of love. And today I'll be upgrading the steering. And the main part of the video will be installing this aluminum steering bell crank with an adjustable servo saver from Hot Racing, but I'll also be addressing the servo horn and the servo itself because those are so closely linked together. Now, I'm a member of several closed Facebook groups sharing information about the Traxxas Slash 4x4, amongst others the Traxxas Slash 4x4, the Traxxas Slash family, the Traxxas Slash community, and the Traxxas Extreme Customs. And those are great sources to get whatever information you need. But I've seen lately that a lot of people that are new to the hobby and just got their Slash, they are asking, what should I start with upgrading? Which end do I start? And often the answer is the power plant, Mamba Max or something Castle, or RPM arms, or yeah, whatever. But in my opinion, I think you should start with the steering because there's a lot of great potential there. If you get a faster and stronger and more responsive steering, then you can really start to evolve as a driver. And that's why I'm making this video, because I think it's important. First, let me explain to you why I upgrade to the aluminum steering bell crank with the adjustable servo saver. Let's open this one up. Now, the stock steering bell crank in plastic is of course a little bit sloppy, being plastic. So first of all, having an aluminum steering bell crank will tighten the whole thing a little bit up. But the main thing for me lies in the servo saver, because the stock servo saver is fixed while this one is adjustable. So if you want to upgrade to a stronger and faster servo, then you can also tighten up the servo saver, giving you a lot more control over your steering. Now let me just explain what the steering bell crank is. Now, these two parts are connected directly to the wheels, making them turn. And these two parts are sitting on the steering posts on the chassis. This part is connected to the servo. So that's what it is. Now, the servo saver consists of three parts. So it's the spring with the top lid, and this part that is connected to the servo, and the bottom. Now, whenever something hits the wheels, this part will flex to save the servo, just like the name suggests. Now, on the stock one, this one is fixed, so the spring rate or the tension of the spring will always be the same. So if you have a stronger servo, this steering bell crank is still designed for the stock servo, which is a weak and slow servo. Now with this one from Hot Racing, you can adjust it. You can just screw it tighter or looser so that you can tighten up the servo saver and get a lot more steering response out of it. Now, there's also an STRC version of this available. I haven't tried it. I have this in my racer and I've had it for at least 2 years and it's working great, so I can recommend this one. Now I want to show you what a sloppy servo saver does to the steering, and to do that I have to turn on this truck, and it will be a little bit loud because of the fans I've installed. But let me just explain to you what I'm going to show you. Now, once I turn on this car, the servo will sit tightly, and I'm going to try to move the tires, and you will see that the servo is standing still at all times, and the flex that you will see is the sloppy servo saver. So let's just start it up. Okay, so you see this here? This is the servo saver giving in. The servo is standing still at all times. Now, especially for high traction surfaces, you will notice that this kind of slop is stealing away from your turning, because the servo saver will give in once the pressure gets too high. And today we're going to eliminate that. So after I've done the installation of the steering bell crank, then I'm going to talk more about servo horn and different servos. So stay tuned for that, or skip to it if you don't want to see the install. So first of all, I'll unscrew these two screws, which are the only two screws on the whole thing, and I'll prepare them with some blue thread lock. Now, a good rule to remember is always, when a screw is screwed into aluminum, use thread lock. And remember, a little bit goes a long way. Right, so then it's time to remove the stock steering bell crank. Now I have removed the tires to make the operation a little bit more easy and also more visible to you guys. Now I'm going to start off by removing the sway bar screws, then these two screws and these two screws. Now I have the RPM front bulkhead, so I can also divide the bulkhead into two by removing these three screws. So I will do that. Right, then it's time to remove the servo link from the servo horn. Right, so then we can set the rest of the truck aside and focus on the front assembly. Now, if you do have the stock front bulkhead, then you would have to remove the front bumper by unscrewing these three screws and these two screws up here. And finally, there should be two screws here that you have to unscrew, and then the front bulkhead would separate with the rest of the front assembly. Now, with the RPM front bulkhead, this is already done. So then we loosen these two screws to remove the steering bell crank from the bulkhead. Remember to take care of the small washers also and set those aside. Then we can lift the steering bell crank off the steering posts, which shouldn't be too hard. Now you can see that two of the bearings are left in the bulkhead, so let's remove those. I usually go for some kind of pliers and I gently try to get them off. So then we can set the bulkhead aside, and also the two last bearings. So then we need to disassemble the bell crank from the steering links. And that is two screws from the underside. And then the bell crank is free. We can set the front assembly aside. And then the servo link will have to be removed by this screw. Now, before you throw this one away, remember that there are two bearings on the top there as well. Then let's bring in the new steering bell crank. And I'll start off by placing the bearings on the top. Now I have a handy little tool for that. And also for the bottom. Then we can reattach the servo link, and we do that from the underside. And since this is going into aluminum, I'm going to apply some thread lock. Then we're going to bring back the front assembly and reassemble the steering links. Also for these I will apply some thread lock. Okay, so then it's time to mount the steering bell crank onto the bulkhead. So you just set them on top of the steering posts and you figure out a way to get them situated. Easy as that. Then you put the 2 screws that you have with the washers on top of that and fasten. So if you do have the stock bulkhead, then now it's the time to situate it under the front assembly and screw in these 2 screws and mount the front bumper by doing these 3 screws and these 2. Right, so then we can put this whole thing back onto the rest of the truck. So I start by attaching the servo link onto the servo horn inside here, and I have an aluminum servo horn, so I will use Loctite. I will come back to the aluminum servo horn after we've installed this. So I'll start by setting this one up like that, and then setting into 2 screws on the upper side, right here and here. Now make sure the steering posts and the bell crank is sitting correctly in their little notch up here. Right, so then we need the center drive shaft to be attached properly, like that, and then secure by a long screw from the top side. And then all that's left are the 3 screws under here and also the sway bars. So get the sway bar back in place and secure it by the 2 screws. There's no point in fastening this screw really hard, because you will just destroy the thread. Right, so then I'll just get the wheels on and we are done with this install. So once you have installed the aluminum steering bell crank, then all the hits to the tires will go on to the next step or the next link, which is the servo horn. And the stock one is of plastic, and sadly I found out that the servo horn cannot be bought as a standalone spare part. You have to buy a kit, and that's really annoying. So I found myself an aluminum servo horn from Team Losi Racing. You can see the article number somewhere down here. It's TLR 1557. And that's working great for me, so get that one, it's a good one. But if you have the stock servo and all these, the 2 former links are installed, then you will start breaking servos, because the stock servo is not very strong. It has plastic gears. Now I have found a couple of servos that I want to talk to you about, which can be perfect for this setup that we now have. And I have one that is reasonably priced, that will match the specs of the stock Traxxas servo, but it's metal geared, so it will work perfectly. And also I have found 2 high-end servos that are much faster and stronger. Now the stock Traxxas servo, it has the specs at 6 volts of 125 ounces per inch and 0.17 second speed. Now I found the Savox SW0231MG servo, which is almost double as strong. At 6 volts it's 208 ounces per inch and 0.17 seconds in speed. So the same speed, but almost double the power or torque. That is retailed at let's see, $53 versus the stock Traxxas Servo, which is $46. Now bear in mind that the Traxxas one is plastic geared and it will break on this setup that we now have. The Savox one now is metal geared and will work fine. Now I have that Savox Servo installed right now, but I am now used to faster servos like I have on my Racer, and I need to upgrade. It's just too slow for me. I really like to have the speed that I have on the track, because it makes me able to counter steer and do really small, fast movements, and that causes better racing, better handling of the truck. So in my Racer I have installed the high-tech HS8330SH servo, which at 6 volts has 139 ounces per inch power and or torque, and 0.09 seconds speed. Now this is not a waterproof servo, so I had to find something similar in the waterproof segment. But first I'd like to show you the difference in speed. So let's get out the Racer as well. So here is the side-by-side comparison of the Savox reasonably priced servo and the high-tech high-end servo. And I am sorry about the noise, but I have to start the fans on the basher again. So I hope you can still hear my voice. So in comparison, you can see the difference in speed. Also, when doing the small adjustments, now you can clearly see the difference between those two types of servo, and I think you have to be aware of that. Demands more of you as a driver the faster the servo is, but also you can really start to control the car with the fast servo. Also, if you get a real fast servo, you can also set it down a little bit on your radio. If you have exponential, for example, then the small movements you can slow those down and save those for the big movements, and then gradually, as you progress as a driver, you can set it up again. Okay, so on to the high-end and fast servos that I've found for you. Now the first one is also a Savox. It's the Savox SW1211SG, which retails just around $115, so it's quite a more expensive servo. But it has 208 ounces per inch torque in 6 volts, and the speed is 0.1 seconds. So it's a fast and strong servo, and it's waterproof, so you can't go wrong. And the other one is something I didn't hear too much about, but I think it's, from what I read around on the internet, it's a great servo, and it's the Xpert WR4401. It retails around $100, and this one has super torque. It's at 6 volts, it's 255 ounces per inch, and the speed is 0.085, so it's super fast. And I'm thinking I want that one. Now bear in mind, if you buy a high-end servo, those are often high voltage servos and would need some more power. The stock ESC will not be able to handle that, so whenever the ESC demands more voltage from the battery, it would leave out voltage to the servo, which makes it glitch and not work properly. Now that isn't a problem on my Racer, because with the Hobbywing Xeron SCT Pro, there is a built-in glitch buster, or BEC, so that problem is eliminated. But you can solve it in a really fast and easy way. You can buy a glitch buster, which are like $10 on eBay. I have an example here. You can hook it up to your receiver, just hook it in, and what it does, it saves power in itself for the servo. So whenever the voltage is too low, it will have reserves for the servo, making it work perfectly. So I would definitely recommend that. So this was how to improve the steering of your Traxxas Slash. I really hope this will help you out. I really hope it was interesting to see and it wasn't too long. But now I need you guys to subscribe, and I need you guys to put your comments below. And feel free to share as well, and I will keep them coming. So till next time, see you.